Welcome to Climate Finance and the Carbon Markets. I'm Charles Bedford, broadcasting from Hong Kong University of Science and Technology that you can see in the background. Today, we have a great special guest who's a friend and a longtime collaborator in the carbon markets, Carlos Trujillo from Colombia. Hello, Carlos.
Hi, Charles. A pleasure to be here.
Thanks for joining. So today we wanted to talk to Carlos because he is the director, CEO of Cercarbono, which is the certification body that has sprung up in Colombia around the carbon credit ecosystem in Colombia, which is quite unique. And we wanted to get Carlos on because he's a real pioneer, both in the technology around the registry standards and the certification process in Colombia, but also really an innovator in the policy arena in Colombia and helping to support a variety of projects. So Carlos, a little bit of introduction there, but can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you come from and what your background is and how you got to be the czar of Colombian carbon?
Charles, that's a huge responsibility we have right now, and I'll be happy to tell my story from the other part of the world. Once I went to Hong Kong, and it was like 34, 35 hours flights. Then it was incredible, and I had an amazing experience over there. In Colombia, I started like my first approach with the carbon market with a friend of mine that has a reforestation project in 2010. And since that, he started developing his own carbon project, and we helped him like once in a while. And it was 2016 when, after many years of work, because he did just like for his own in a part-time, he developed his own project. And in 2017, it was verified. And it was like the first project to be verified from this part of Colombia. And we learned how to do this. And it was an amazing experience. Before, we used to be partners in an e-commerce that we had that it was called Estudio.com that we sold in 2014 and stayed with some IT business. And in the IT business, we work here in Colombia with like huge companies, like insurance companies, banks, like grocery stores. And from there, we started like the introduction and bonded with the carbon market. And it was 2017 when the carbon tax launched in Colombia. And at that time, we say, hey, there's a business opportunity. We love sustainability. We love technology. Then let's do a standard. And it's not just to do a standard, it's to have the best people behind the standard. And we start hiring this amazing team that we have. We have some PhDs, and our like technical team it's brilliant. Also, our IT team, it's one of the tops in Colombia that is in our registry, and it's a blockchain registry with the top IT that you can imagine. And in 2017, we have our first project, and it was slow at the beginning. Actually, things happened really slow. And 2019, we started receiving more projects. 2020, we had like in a platform like 40 projects. 2021, we doubled. And in 2021, it was incredible experience because it was the first year that we have projects from other parts outside Colombia. It was not just for the Colombian tax. We start selling outside Colombia with a growth partners fund. And we have started receiving projects from India, from Ghana, from Panama, from Bolivia, from Argentina. And we have more in the way, like from Turkey and other countries from Asia. Then this year is going to be really interesting also because this year it's not when it's going to happen, it's that it's going to happen, and we're going to be hopefully we're going to be accepted by Corsia. And this is going to be great for our business because we're going to have a new dynamic. We're working really hard to have like the best practices in our standard and to have great documents so that people can trust us, because this is a business of trust. And from day one, our clients have trusted us, and that's why we have around 80% of the Colombian market are Cercarbono credits from our projects. And that's incredible because when people start trusting you, you have a huge responsibility. And that's why we need to keep our really hard work up this year and the next years, because this is a compromise not only with Colombia, now it's a worldwide compromise. And Cercarbono is going to be one of the top standards in the world. And we're working really hard so that this happen in the near future.
That's a great story. I love hearing that story. There were some pieces of it that I didn't really realize. I didn't know that you'd gotten your start, for instance, as on a reforestation project. So doing the basic technical stuff and trying to get all of the documents together and working with a friend on reforestation was really the way you got in, the entree to the carbon market. Tell us a bit about that project. How did that come about? Where is it? Is it near your hometown, or what was the genesis there?
This project is located near Cartagena. Cartagena is in the Caribbean. It's around 1 hour from Cartagena. It's a reforestation project of teak. It started, I can't recall if it was 2009, like to be exact. And it's a project that they are planting 100 hectares per year. And they're still doing that. And when we started, I helped more from the Excel part than from the technical part. But I started learning like from the technical part, and I got like really interested. Then from that, I started understanding how they work, like the methodologies, and how to implement a project.
Gotcha. And what's your educational background, Carlos? Did you study business, or where did you go to university? What's your background?
Yeah, I did my university in Colombia, and then I went and did master's degrees in IE Business School in Spain, in Madrid, in 2011.
Yeah, famous business school in Spain, I know. So it must have been a cool experience. And all the while you're thinking about sort of how do you start you're entrepreneurial, thinking about reforestation and e-commerce, and it all kind of comes together around this Cercarbono platform, which even with a slow start, things are going pretty amazingly now. So, congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, it was really slow because people didn't know about like the carbon business in Colombia. And when we start like presenting like, hey, you can have carbon like in your energy renewable project, or you can have carbon in your reforestation. They say, what is carbon? And we needed to explain like everything, like from Kyoto to Paris and to today, and what's like the Colombian carbon tax, and that they could benefit. And today they're so happy that most part of Colombia understand what is the carbon tax and what is a carbon credit.
It's interesting. So Colombia really went from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in almost no time, right? The carbon tax was put in place in 2016, I think. Is that right?
July 2017.
17. So really not very long ago, right? I mean, it's less than 5 years ago, but it happened super fast and people really reacted quickly. Tell us a little bit about the story of why did that carbon tax pass? How did the politics align to put that in place? Obviously, it was after the Paris Agreement, about a year and a half after the Paris Agreement. But what was going on in Colombia that they thought, okay, great, we're going to put a tax on it, on carbon?
Yeah, it was interesting because at that moment, Colombia was like struggling a bit in its economy. And they did like a huge reform for a tax reform. And in the tax reform, the president said, we should include also like the environmental sector. And this was like, I met a couple of months ago, the person who structured the carbon tax. and he was like, Carlos, he told me the story, and it was like really nice to hear from him, because when he presented the carbon tax, they say, you're crazy. But the president say, no, you're not crazy. I think this is a great idea, and that like the fossil fuels should be taxed because this is contamination. And that was like the way when how they structured the carbon tax. It was supposed to be bigger, but in like the next coming years, it's going to be a bit bigger, because in Colombia, carbon is not in the carbon tax. Then it's only the fossil fuels. And I think that it's going to grow in the next coming years.
And so really the way it works is it's about a US $5 per gallon of fossil fuels? How's that? What's the tax actually work on?
Okay, when it started in 2017, it was $5 per ton from the conversion.
Okay, so converted like based on fuel cost, like let's say it's a barrel of oil, and that converts to X tons of carbon,
Yeah,
and you're taxed on that. Okay,
that's depending on the fuel. It depends on a couple of factors,
yeah,
and each year it's inflation plus 1%. But
okay,
here in Colombia, we have had like devaluation. Then it's not the five same dollars. Now it's I need to calculate, but because it just changed a couple of weeks ago, but it's like 480 or 490.
I see. So the Colombian currency is devalued against the dollar, so the effect is actually reduced a little bit, even though the ratcheting up is continuing to happen.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
got it.
right.
At least the international effect, the foreign trade effect. Got it. Now, the other, so really, I mean, a pretty interesting thing to have happened, and that tax really drove a lot of entrepreneurial activity, right? Everything from you and your friend finally being able to actually get compensated for some of the reforestation you were doing in Teak and Cartagena, to people putting in renewable energy systems and getting compensated for those through the carbon tax or through the offset process. Was there how did that develop? It was pretty quickly, it sounds like. I mean, may not have felt quick to you in the last 5 years, but fairly quickly. Is Cercarbono actually licensed by the government, or is it an independent entity, or is it somehow complying, with some other standards, or are you guys just essentially creating this trust structure on your own?
We are a private company. We work like the Colombian government knows that we work, and we present like things for to them. And our structure is under the ISO 14064 in the three versions.
Okay.
That's how we work our structure.
Got it. And so the Colombian government essentially recognizes the purchase by fossil fuel users of Cercarbono credits as essentially payment for the tax that's due on those fossil fuels. Is that the way it works?
Yes, it's correct.
And how much? Who are your main customers in terms of buying credits from the fossil fuel industry, or who has the big liabilities out there?
The main buyers here in Colombia are like airlines, all the cargo companies, I don't want to say names, but the companies who sell gas. And now we have the voluntary market is growing a lot, and many companies in the voluntary market in all sectors, industries, are buying in lower quantities, but now they're really interested like in working together so that they can be carbon neutral. And
you basically created sort of a two piece system, a certification entity, Cercarbono, and a registry, Ecoregistry. And they're sort of really linked together, independent entities, but the Ecoregistry, is it more of a marketplace? Is that how I'd think of it, or more of a registration? And do you have a place where, a small business can go online and say, oh, okay, I want to buy those credits? Is there any option for people to do that yet?
Yes, in Ecoregistry, they have also it's a registry for Cercarbono, and it's half owned by an IT company that I'm also partner with my other friends. And the other half is owned by today, like the Colombian petrol company Ecopetrol, that they own half of this registry. They have also a marketplace that it's called EcoTrade, and it's focused like for the carbon tax compensations.
Gotcha. So it's a whole ecosystem essentially that you're trying to build. So from the regulatory side, the certification side, the registration and kind of custodian entity of Ecoregistry, and then essentially the retail or wholesale side of the selling of the carbon credits.
The wholesale, we don't get involved much. That's more like a service that eco services, I call them like that they give like to small clients, because mostly like most deals are done with like the projects.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier that you starting in Colombia because there's lots of activity there because of the carbon tax, but expanding across into projects around the world. What's the majority of the project types that you have? Are they forestry, reforestation, renewable energy, methane stuff? What's out there? What's on the platform?
Like right now we have like the main is forestry, that it's divided in reforestation and REDD+ projects. Then some renewable energy, some waste disposal, and now we have also projects that it's called Fugitive Gases.
Right.
Yeah. Then now we have also some projects of fugitive gases.
That's an interesting field because there's lots of systems like gas systems that are leaky, that if you just do some small changes and some repairs, you can actually capture a lot of methane gas, which is a pretty cool thing. Also things like landfill or changing feed for livestock. It's a new area. And these are all governed by standards that you all are creating. And those standards are typically based, as I understand it, on the UN standards that were developed during the CDM era. Is that right? But then updated and improved?
Yeah, we accept some CDM methodologies, and we have developed methodologies, and we are developing new methodologies. Like in the new methodologies that we are developing, we have some that this is going to be some again changing, because it's going to be like in the conservation and for protected areas of some countries, some parts, and we're working on it. We don't know how it's going to finish, but we have our company and Anali working on this methodology. Also in a blue carbon methodology, we've been working, and sustainable, like with sustainable cattle, we've been working on the methodology. This is going a bit slow, but it's going to happen in the next couple of months.
Well, it's complicated stuff, right? It's complicated.
Yeah. It's a huge responsibility.
Well, you mentioned that right at the beginning, and I always appreciated that. When we first got to know you, you take this notion of trust and your role in the market very seriously, and I think everybody realizes that, and I think that must be part of the culture of your company. How did that kind of came about essentially through your work in the industry and understanding that need, but I know that it's very, very much appreciated. And just to wrap up, I wanted to mention one project which I'm a big fan of, which is a project that's run by Forestry Consulting Group project number 29. It's called the Asociativo project, which we like a lot because it has it basically brings together very small landholders, 1, 2, 3, 5 hectare plots, who otherwise wouldn't be able to access the carbon market, but aggregates them all together in a very transparent way, and they replant their not very useful or sort of slopey lands, and they're paid by the forestry consulting group who does the work to bring them together. Can you talk a little bit about that project and what you know about the forestry consulting group guys?
Yeah, forestry consulting, they're an amazing developer of projects or reforestation projects. They have lots of knowledge. They've been in the carbon market, I say, for the last 10 years. And this project is really inclusive. And it's more than 60 small reforestation lands. And people who are getting like this money, they are changing their lives. And people are so thankful that now they can participate from this market, because by themselves it's impossible. Then this job that Paulo Hernandez from Forestry Consulting is doing, I really value his job, and I really value what he's done for these people, because it's amazing that like a company from outside is buying these credits, and it's changing their lives. This is like a really game changer. Then if they tell their story, this is going to replicate, and then it's going to be 100 land owners, and then it's going to be 1,000 landowners, and this is going to happen because this is what we need to change our country, and it's happening. And I'm really thankful that you guys trusted this project and that you changed the lives of these people.
I think that's a really great lesson for us, and one of the pleasures of working with you and with Paulo at Forestry Consulting Group is just to think about what the impact can be of a really good high integrity carbon market, and especially having an impact on indigenous people, small, very poor farmers in rural areas. If that's the sort of outcome that we can see, it's I think a really positive story for climate, but also for people. So, well, thank you so much, Carlos, for spending the time with me today and with the students. I know they'll get a kick out of your story, your personal story, but also the entrepreneurial journey that you've moved forward. They're very interested in employment opportunities, as all students are. They're all graduate students, and I'm sure that some of them might be calling you. So be prepared.
I really appreciate like this space, and I'm willing to talk with your students, and we are growing. We need people.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you so much.